Hey, what's going on, guys? Jason here, and thanks so much for stopping by my channel today. This channel is all about you and me, the home enthusiast, our projects, and kind of just the small things to keep them going. Now, this project right here is my 1993 Wrangler YJ. This is being turned into a diesel overland vehicle. When this is finished, this will start the launch of a new series of exploring America's national parks and national forests, and we're going to throw some from Canada and Mexico in there too. Now, these are going to be like vacation trips, small 3 or 4 day weekends that I can take here and there with my job, go out, see something and come back. So make sure you stop right now, click the subscribe button, and hang around because we got a lot of good stuff coming up. Today we're going to do a shop talk. We're going to do a shop talk on track bars and leaf springs. So why do you need a track bar on a YJ? Most people say, hey, just cut them off. There's no point in them. You know, your axle is centered by your leaf spring. Well, we're about to go through a couple situations where you might want to keep that track bar, so stick around. All right, what a pain that was.
All right, guys, so I guess the best place to start talking about track bars, and if you need them, is first to make sure you understand what they are and what they do. Well, a track bar or a panhard rod or a panhard bar, there's about 100 different names for them.
What they do is they essentially stop an axle from moving this way. Now, one of the arguments that you hear about panhard bars or track bars with leaf springs is that you don't need them because the leaf spring physically centers the axle. And what that means is there's a fixed width here where the axle's mounted top and bottom. You got the U-bolts on the top, and you've actually got the spring pads on the bottom here. So what that does is it gives a fixed plane that this axle now sits in. It's not prone to side movement, but it can move side to side. If you're talking about the rear end of a YJ, the best thing that you can do with a track bar there is get rid of it. There is no external forces acting on the axle this way to that. However, on the front end, you probably shouldn't get rid of your track bar. Now, the reason is you have steering linkage up here. You have different forces at work here on a front axle than you do a rear axle. First is the most important, and that is the steering. So you got the steering, which connects from here to both sides of the axle. In a perfect world, you wouldn't have to worry about this. But as bushings and stuff wear in a front axle and you turn the wheel, a lot of times you can actually see the frame move over top of the front axle. Now, this might not seem like a lot to you, but it's small things like that that lead to these vehicles breaking down and having problems with the frames cracking and stuff like that. If that deflection isn't checked, then that can create a whole lot of problems. Now, I'm keeping a track bar up front here, but not a standard one. We'll go over what I'm keeping here in a minute. So one of the other things that you're going to hear about when talking about track bars and YJs is that all it does is stops axle movement. It affects your droop, your compression. It just affects all different aspects of your axle movement. So one of the things that's appealing to rock crawlers with a live axle is that when one wheel goes up, it forces the other wheel down, kind of in this train of motion. Well, springs, by their very nature, and this is all springs, so don't just let somebody tell you that leaf springs are designed to move up and down, because all springs are just designed to move up and down. So that, oh, you shouldn't have a track bar on a YJ because the leaf springs just move up and down. All springs just move up and down. That's coil springs, that's leaf springs, that's all of them. So if anybody says, oh, you shouldn't have a track bar because the leaf springs, they're designed to move up and down, and the panhard bar is designed to make the axle go in an arc. Well, guys, all springs are designed to just move up and down. So the first person that tells you, oh, you can't do that because that spring only moves up and down, for God's sakes, all springs only move up and down. Now, while a track bar does try to put your axle into an arc, one of the things that it does very well is make sure that stuff doesn't get out of hand. Now, if you've got extended length shackles or worn bushings or anything like that, that's going to allow any type of movement side to side in the axle, as soon as you start to steer, it's going to amplify that. And what I mean by that is if you've got a worn bushing over here with a 1/4 inch deflection and a worn bushing over here with a 1/4 inch deflection, and you turn and your steering is tight against a rock, guess what? That 1/2 inch of deflection has to go somewhere else. Would you rather have a track bar here checking that so your front end doesn't start to drift and put pressure on your shackles and your bushings, making them worse? Or would you rather not have one? What it boils down to, I guess, is the way that you intend to use the Jeep. Now, if everybody maintains their Jeeps, there's going to be no problem with this. As long as your bushings are in check, everything's good to go, you don't have to worry about a track bar as much, but you should still keep it there. Once again, they just stop anything crazy from happening to the front end of your Jeep. Let's face it, stuff happens, guys. Some people are completely happy with cutting these off, but I'm not going to do it. Instead, I found a solution. I'll show you what it is. Alright guys, so I'm over here at my table and I wanted to show you a couple different track bars. The first track bar that you have is the standard track bar. Okay, it's fixed length, it has a rubber bushing at both ends, and it's just for stock applications. Those track bars are not designed to be lifted or anything like that, and where a lot of people get in trouble is they will actually, put 1, 2, 3 inch lift on there that doesn't come with like a track bar, relocation bracket or anything like that, and they expect you to use the same one, and then all of a sudden you're tight. Well, that's not the way to do it. If you have leaf springs or coil springs and your lift comes with some sort of track bar bracket, on coil springs it's necessary because your axle is just going to fall over. On leaf springs you might not think it's as necessary, but you should still use the track bar relocation bracket and keep a track bar on the front end of your Jeep. The rear end is really going to be your choice, but I cut the rear track bar off my YJ. I don't see a point in it. There's no external forces on the axle moving it outside of its preferred range of motion. So that being said, provided the bushings stay in good shape, there's going to be no axle deflection. I'm not going to have to worry about the axle physically trying to twist or anything like that. So stock track bars, good for stock applications. If you're going to go to a lifted setup, make sure you use what the manufacturer of the lift recommends. Now here we have a couple different track bars. This is an extendable track bar. Now this is for our Project Ultra XJ. You'll see here that it's threaded. So this physically does change lengths. You can kind of tailor this for what you need it to be, but it is still a fixed track bar. This does enable you to have a greater avenue of tunability though. So if you can even just weld a bung into your stock track bar, or find a way to modify it, then a stock track bar works really well. This track bar in particular comes with its own bracket. It has a high joint at one side and it has a rubber bushing at the other. So we're going to get a lot of good use out of this for our XJ. The next type of track bar we're going to talk about is actually the solution for the YJ. Now this is a Jks Track Bar and it is telescoping. Now what this does is when you go off-road, you can take this pinch bolt right here and loosen it, and that allows a certain amount of slip inside the track bar itself. So a lot of people complain that you lose droop, your axle won't droop out. Well, this allows your axle to still have an unrestricted range of motion off-road when you really need to crawl, but you're able to tighten this pinch bolt back down when you're on road to make sure you stay safe. That's the name of the game. So this is our solution for our YJ. I'm hoping to get a lot of good feedback out of this. I have never used one of these before, but in doing my research and building this Jeep, I couldn't see myself getting rid of it completely. So if you guys have a YJ, you might want to think about one of these Jks Track Bars. All right, guys, so I hope that kind of narrowed things down for you a little bit. We talked about what a track bar is for and the 3 different types of track bars that you can have, being stock, extendable, and telescoping. So make your own decisions, do what you got to do. I took my rear one off, but I kept the front one because I just don't think it's safe to remove the front track bar. So to each their own. Thanks so much for stopping by, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time putting the front axle together.